I'm David.R.Johnson. I'm a psychologist and a drama therapist.
I did want to, we're shifting into forms of research and thinking, which is really another way of saying, how do we try to understand what we're doing? And then use that understanding to not just study ourselves, that is, study drama therapy, but use drama therapy to study human beings. So the goal isn't just to do research on ourselves as drama therapists, but to ask ourselves, what are we interested in knowing using drama therapy? So we have to ask ourselves, what in the real world do we want to study using drama approaches? And the way that we would do that would be to develop some kind of a method in drama therapy that would help us study the thing that we're interested in. So the great astronomers were interested in the stars and the planets. And when they developed the telescope, that helped a great deal in learning about the stars and the planets. So the telescope is the method you use to examine the thing you're interested in. So I developed a test called the diagnostic role-playing test to be the telescope. And I decided to study a bunch of different things that you may have no interest in, but you can still use the DRPT to study something you're interested in. So in today's workshop, I want you, starting now, to be thinking, what are the important things in life that you would like to study with drama tests, such as the DRPT? So the DRPT was developed in 1974 and 1975, and I used it to compare and to study schizophrenia. And then years later, about 10 years later, and 10 to 15 years later, we used it to study post-traumatic stress disorder in combat veterans. We asked our subjects for informed consent. We videotaped the role plays. It involved role playing. After the role playing, there were questions that we asked the subjects, and then we did an analysis and then wrote it up into an article. There were two versions of DRPT. In DRPT 1, the requirement was to take on a role. So we gave them 10 roles, and they had to play those roles. In DRPT 2, we asked them to make up a role. So they had to come up with characters, 3 characters, by themselves. And the reason for this is these are the 2 basic things that all drama therapy, you do in drama therapy. You play a role that somebody gives you, or you make up a role. In DRPT 1, you can read in your book. Now these 5 roles, grandparent, bum, politician, teacher, and lover, are not random. They were selected because of very complicated procedure, which I'm not going to describe. So these are 5 roles that require different qualities. DRPT2, these are the instructions for DRPT2. We use the word beings because we wanted people to be able to be animals or even plants. But you had to be alive, but you didn't necessarily have to be a human being. Today we're going to be working on DRPT2 because DRPT2 is closer to DBT. We do not ask our clients to play a role. We ask them to make up roles. So DRPT2 is closer to DBT. Okay, here's the inquiry or the instructions. So we ask the subject to describe the scene and to describe each of the 3 characters afterwards. And this is written down. So then I was interested in the internal world of the client. The question is, how is the internal world organized? And my assumption was that if I'm asked to come out here and just make up a scene with 3 different beings, where is that coming from? It's coming from inside. So the way that I view the world and the way I view myself and the way I view relationships is going to come out in the role play. And so then I developed a scoring sheet with all sorts of measures to score behaviors that I saw in the role play. And so this had to do with how complicated the scene was, how flexible the characters and the actions were, and how much of the imagination was shown in the scenes. The cognitive flexibility scale had all of these different subheadings, which basically looked at, were the roles that came up confused with each other? Could you tell the difference between the roles? Or was they very rigidly done? What we found was non-paranoid schizophrenics might do a scene, for the DRPT, it might look like this. Could you tell the 3 different characters? What were the 3 characters? Who knows? Paranoid schizophrenics would be more like this. I am the father. I'm the mother. And I'm the child. So 3 very distinct. The imaginal capacity scale basically related to, did they indicate that they were moving into the play space? How engaged they were with the imagination, how immersed they were in the play, how different the roles were from their normal lives, and did they bring any kind of creativity to it? We've developed another set of measures to measure emotional intelligence. Did they act out different emotions or no emotions? So we were able to use Robert Landy's role method analysis and use the DRPT to help evaluate that. So for example, you could measure the role types, the role, counter role, and guide, the style of enactment, the theme, integration, life drama connection, and all that. All of this is from the role method. The strength of the DRPT is, as I said, it calls for behavior similar to what you see in an actual drama therapy session. You see people taking roles and making up roles. And you actually see how the person embodies the role, not what they think about the role. So we're not measuring their verbal description of what they played. We're watching how they played actually. In fact, that was very interesting. There's a whole group of people that might do a scene like this. Could I help you, please?
제가 당신 도와드릴 게 있을까요?
Sure. Yes, I could use some help here. I have to move this my suitcase.
네, 그렇죠. 도움을 받으면 좋을 것 같네요. 여기에 제 그 여행 가방이 있습니다.
I'm the suitcase.
제가 여행 가방입니다.
Well, I'd be glad to help you.
도와드릴 수 있어서 기쁘네요.
Okay, so that was the scene.
그게 이제 장면이었습니다.
That's what they did. Then, after the scene, the researcher asked them to describe the characters and describe the action. And the person went on for 20 minutes describing the feelings and the thoughts and the feelings and about the suitcase and the person being helped. And they told this, they just went on and on and on for 20 minutes. And so they had a very developed feelings and thoughts about it, but it didn't show up in their behavior at all. And we had the reverse. Somebody came in and, this crazy scene, and they were rolling a boulder, and then they did this, and they had this conversation, and they were laughing, and it was all this incredible scene. And then afterwards, when they were asked to describe it, they barely said anything. Almost one-word answers. Interesting. The weakness is you have to videotape it. You then have to train raters to rate it, and you have a complicated scoring system. And so to train raters to rate a videotape, long time. And anyone who's ever done this knows this, which is you do the videotapes, you see everything very clearly. You go, wow, that's amazing. And then you train 2 other people to see the same thing, and they don't see it. And everyone's got a score sheet, and you score, and they're all completely different. So you have to work to figure out something that everyone can agree on and can see. And this is where you learn something about science. Each one of us thinks that what we see is very obvious. It's not. And you have to find out what's real by being able to have different people see the same thing. The DRPT is a very simple task to have people do, and you can compare different populations. So you can compare old people to young people, you can compare men to women, you can compare the same person over time.
시간에 걸쳐 같은 사람을 비교할 수도 있습니다.
So you can do the DRPT at the beginning of treatment and follow it through and see the changes based on treatment. And you can do a clinical assessment, which would mean you would give the DRPT right at the beginning when somebody comes into the hospital, and that could tell you what kind of drama therapy to be in and would predict how they're going to do in drama therapy. And I want you to watch closely. One person after another is going to come up and do it. And you're going to be looking at what they're doing and seeing, is there anything interesting to you? DVT is all about noticing the client. And DVT developed because I learned what to notice and what not to notice. There are some things that might be interesting, but they may not be important. And there may be some things that are very important. For example, look at who, the characters. Look at where and when. Where did the scene take place? What happens between the characters? Is there a plot or a story in the scene? Is there a message? Thank you. There is nothing there. And through theater, I'm going to make other things here. Characters, things are going to show up. There's nothing here. It's the imagination. And so the question is, what other than the body shows up? What am I creating? And some people kind of think of me carrying a suitcase. Some of those things are very realistic. They're coming from my life. They're real. Now, they're not actually real. I'm pretending, but they're very realistic. And other people open up their suitcase, and out come monsters and wind and whoosh, and all sorts of things that are not realistic. And that has to be meaningful. Some people live, their inner world is filled with realistic things. And other people, their inner world is filled with fantastic things. That has to mean something. I mean, it's good to have both. This DRPT creates a major question of how do you represent all three characters. So there are three basic options. One is you're you, and you look at somebody and you say, "Hi, Dad, how are you?" And then in your mind, you have Dad say, "I'm fine, son. I was out walking today." "Hi, Mom, how are you?" So you stay you, and you're imagining the other two. Or do you go, "Hi, Dad, how are you?" "I'm fine, son. I was out walking today." "God, that's really great that you're walking. You know, it's very important for your age." "Hi, sweetheart, would you like a sandwich?" And the third is you narrate it. "Once upon a time, there was a little boy, and he met a lion in the forest, and he was eaten, and blah, 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 blah." So you can narrate it. And it turns out that's a big decision to make. Can you carry on a conversation between two people in your mind? Or do you play out each by moving? And it relates to, it's kind of existential, it relates to our relationship to absence. The imaginary world lives in absence. How is it that we humans can travel to absence? And are we scared of absence? I don't know. I've had a wonderful time being here yesterday and today. And no matter what, you should know that doing drama therapy is a meaningful, fun, important thing to do. And I encourage you to do it and stick in there and to help Korea out. Bring something to Korea in terms of play.